So as of late, the crypto market as a whole, including Cardano, has been performing fairly well in terms of price appreciation. ADA is up to over 30 cents per unit, and Bitcoin, the crypto market leader in terms of size and popularity amongst the wider population, is up to over double its previous all-time high, trading at around $42,000 per unit. But how can we take this information and delve into past data to try and figure out a likely course of action for the price movement of ADA? In this video, that's exactly what I intend to do, but before we get into the main section, if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, then be sure to do so for more content like this. Okay, so one thing which I want to make abundantly clear is that not all bull runs, or bear runs as well for that matter, are of equal magnitude. And of course, the job of an astute investor is to figure out how far each market trend is likely to go and then form a basis for picking sound investments. Whenever a bull run occurs, it always tends to be the case that the market leader has a disproportionately large gain in the beginning, and then as the bull run matures, the level of relative gain recedes, and in a full reversal, the market leader tends to underperform the number 3, 4, 5 and so on down the line. And the reason for this, in my opinion, begins with the fact that the growth of a bull run is primarily powered by new investors being drawn into an area, by a mixture of excitement about the new technology, and secondly by the allure of large gains made by earlier investors. And so when we have a large influx of new investors into a particular space, because they are unfamiliar with that area, they tend to dabble in the market leader, which is in this case Bitcoin, and then gradually move on and look for other projects down the line, which are less discovered and have alternative value propositions. And so bearing this information in mind, if we consider that Bitcoin has reached a price of double its previous all-time high so far, and then we look at Cardano who has reached a price level of just 1/3 of its previous all-time high, in my opinion we are in the early stages of a bull run where the market leader, Bitcoin, is heavily outperforming the projects just down the line. And this is because of the fact that the concentration of new investors has been focused disproportionately on Bitcoin. Now naturally I can't be 100% sure, but it's my feeling that once the initial Bitcoin hype of the masses of new investors recently drawn into the space wears off, they'll begin to look down the road, and of course Cardano, amongst a number of other projects, would then in this scenario be positioned for huge price gains from here. Now as mentioned earlier in this video, not all bull runs are of equal sizes, and in the crypto market, as a product of being such a young space, it means that there isn't much past data to go off of, but still there is some. This isn't the crypto market's first bull run, in fact it's the third large one in its history, and studying the limited information available, I now believe that the best way to gauge the size of a particular bull run, in altcoins particularly, is to look at the maximum price level that the current bull run takes Bitcoin to in relation to its previous all-time high. And so if at the peak of this bull run Bitcoin has been driven up to, say, double its previous all-time high, I would then expect that Cardano would experience a similar level of price appreciation later on, as the bull run matures and the focus of the masses switches from Bitcoin the market leader toward the altcoins just down the line. And by this logic I'd expect a maximum price of around $2 per unit at the peak of this bull run, and bear in mind that this is a very rough form of analysis, but I still think that it's the best we've got in crypto. Now so far Bitcoin has for all practical purposes doubled its previous all-time high, but the thing is we don't know how much gas is left in the tank. I mean, is this as far as things will go, or is it just the start of the climb? Regarding the last two bull runs in crypto, Bitcoin rose between 5 and 15 times its previous all-time high, and of course 2 data points isn't enough to form a reliable indication as to what we can expect this time around. But even if we take the lower of the two figures, namely an increase of 5 times from the high of the previous bull run to the high of the current one, by this logic I would expect an increase in Cardano by around 5 times its previous all-time high or thereabouts, which happens to be a nice round $5 per unit. And if we were to instead take the higher figure of 15 times its previous all-time high, I then expect a price point of around $15 per unit for Cardano. Now I'll be the first to admit that these prices do seem to be a bit far-fetched on first glance, but having seen the data, bull runs have traditionally led to prices of between 5 and 15 times previous all-time highs. And so if this trend is to continue into the future, then the prices we've talked about earlier are completely reasonable in my view. And again, I may well be wrong, but having analysed previous data, I do think that this is an entirely rational conclusion to come to. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.